Chapter 4190. Yunqing. I'll go with you no matter which city you're going to look for him. Yujua's face was filled with a gentle and doting smile. He understood Lin Yunqing's feelings all too well. In fact, even he himself could not resist the urge to look for him. After all, that was their son. However, before you go, you should take a look at our son's portrait first. Otherwise, even if you see him, you won't be able to recognize him. Lin Yunqing was shocked when she heard Yujua's words. Following that, a look of ecstasy appeared on her face. You're not going to stop me? Why should I stop you? Yujua held Lin Yunqing's hand. It was my mistake that caused you and your son to be separated for so many years. Am I supposed to stop you from looking for him now? Don't forget I'm his father. I care about him just as much, and I want to see him. Tears flickered in Lin Yunqing's eyes. All the resentment she had felt towards Yujua over the years instantly dissipated into nothingness. Yujua had indeed made an unforgivable mistake back then. However, she had been punishing Yujua over the past 20 years because of this mistake. In fact, what she had done was very wrong as well. However, from the beginning to the end, Yu had definitely taken care of her like this, causing her heart to be filled with warmth, and at the same time, also filled with guilt. Lin Yunqing reached out to wipe the tears from the corner of her eyes. A smile then appeared on her face and her eyes were filled with joy. Do you have a portrait of Bewitching? Yujua gently nodded. I had drawn a portrait of Bewitching as soon as I got back. Father and mother have already met him, so I've specially brought a portrait for you to see. Quick, show it to me, Lin Yunqing said impatiently. All these years, she had always imagined how their child would look like, but she had never been able to imagine his exact features. She never thought that Yujua would actually draw a portrait of Bewitching. She was filled with anticipation. Looking at Lin Yunqing's impatient look, Yujua immediately took out the portrait. When Lin Yunqing saw the outstanding man in the portrait, her eyes gradually changed, and her hands could not help but cover her mouth. These eyebrows, this nose, these facial lines. She suddenly felt that this should be the appearance of their child. All of this made her feel exceptionally familiar. This appearance clearly had the shadow of her and Yujua. For more than 20 years, she had never been able to figure out Bewitching's true appearance. Until this moment, she suddenly understood that this was their child. Yujua was definitely not lying to her. Isn't he very handsome? Yujua's lips curled up slightly. Bewitching's appearance was truly a case of the student surpassing the master. Ever since he found out about Bewitching's true appearance, he understood why the former had to disguise himself. With such an appearance, he was afraid that it would easily attract some trouble. Lin Yunqing nodded heavily and gazed deeply at the portrait. Her eyes were filled with a loving light. Very handsome, really very handsome. I heard that Hong Zhuang is also a rare beauty. However, when I met her at that time, she was also in disguise, so I don't know her true appearance. However, we'll know when we find them. I want to thank our daughter-in-law. If it wasn't for her by Bewitching's side, I'm afraid that we would never be able to reunite with Bewitching again. Chapter 4191. Although she had never met her daughter-in-law, Lin Yunqing had a good impression of her. This was because this daughter-in-law had saved her son. Not only that, Bewitching was greatly indebted to his daughter-in-law's family. Hong Zhuang's family had taken care of Bewitching so much. As Bewitching's family, they should be grateful. Moreover, from Yujua's description, she already understood that Bailey Hong Zhuang was definitely a good lady. Not only was she sincere to Bewitching, but she was also willing to give up everything for Bewitching. She must treat such a daughter-in-law well in the future. As she said this, Lin Yunqing could not help but look at Yujua tentatively. She knew very well that although Miss Bailey had married Bewitching, and her status in the lower realm was not simple, there was still a gap between her and Bewitching's status. With the D family's status, if Bewitching had grown up in the D family, his background would not have been suitable. However, she did not have such requirements for Bewitching now. She hoped that the rest of the D family would not have such requirements as well. That's right. Yujua nodded. We should really thank her properly. They were both sensible people. They would remember this kindness in their hearts, and would definitely not treat Bailey Hong Zhuang unfairly. He knew that Lin Yunqing had deliberately asked this question to confirm this point. Obviously, the couple had the same idea. After understanding Di Yujua's attitude, Lin Yunqing heaved a sigh of relief. That's good. The two of them chatted as they prepared for a while. Then, they left the Di family and began to rush without stopping. After walking around the streets, Bailey Hongzhuang realized that the currency in the upper realm had been converted into spiritual stones. No matter what one bought, one would use spiritual stones to calculate the price. This was because spiritual stones were something that every cultivator needed. It was undoubtedly very suitable to use them as currency. Gold coins could also be circulated, but gold coins were very expensive to buy spirit stones. Fortunately, I have given the prescription to the Prunglai Palace. Now, I still have a lot of spirit stones on hand. It will be enough for the time being. Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but sigh. When she went out, she couldn't do anything without money. Fortunately, she didn't have to worry about this for the time being. However, not only did she need lodging, but she also needed spirit stones for her cultivation. The consumption rate was also very shocking. Previously, when she fainted, Wang Yanhan sent her to the inn and helped her find a doctor. These expenses were all borne by Wang Yanhan. She once wanted to return these spirit stones to Wang Yanhan, but she was rejected. According to Wang Yanhan, she had just arrived in the upper realm, so she wouldn't have many spirit stones in her possession. So it was better to be frugal at this time. Otherwise, it would be troublesome if she needed them in the future. Wang Yanhan had already joined the forces of Rong and City. He could receive a lot of spirit stones every month, which was much more than the amount in the lower realm. In this regard, she could only keep this gratitude in her heart. When she first came to the upper realm, she was almost powerless to resist. Fortunately, she met Wang Yanhan. If she had met some evil people, the consequences would have been unimaginable. Fortunately, she was lucky enough to meet her senior brother after coming here. No matter what, I should do something. Chapter 4192. Master, do you have any ideas? Looking at Bailey Hongzhuang's thoughtful look, Xiaohei couldn't help but ask. Xiaohei knew her master's temperament very well. At this moment, her master's expression was obviously thinking about something. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. I plan to draw an inscription and give it to senior brother Wang Yan. In these days of conversation with Wang Yanhan, she also learned that even in the upper realm, there were not many inscription masters. Now her inscription technique had improved again. Although she hadn't used it for a while, she had never given up. After all, inscription technique could still play a big role in many cases. As far as she knew, Wang Yanhan also wanted to find an inscription master to help him inscribe on his weapon to improve the power of the weapon. However, there was only one inscription master in Rong and City. With Wang Yanhan's current status, even if he went to ask for an inscription master, there wouldn't be any results. She believed that if she drew an inscription and gave it to him, he would be very happy. Listening to Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Xiaohei and Xiaobai's eyes also lit up. They clapped and said, Master, your idea is really good. Senior brother Wang Yan has taken care of us so much. We should also give him a surprise. With senior brother Wang Yan's current strength, the level of inscription required to upgrade his weapon to suit his current situation is not low. I don't have enough materials in my hands. Let's go to the inscription shop to buy some materials first. Bailey Hongzhuang thought and said, Okay. Xiaohei and Xiaobai both agreed. After Bailey Hongzhuang bought all the materials needed for the inscription, she also had a certain understanding of the prices in the upper realm. Sure enough, the prices here were much more expensive than the lower realm. Similarly, the things here were also more abundant. Some materials that were difficult to find in the lower realm were much more likely to be found here. Some of the precious materials in the lower realm were also brought to the upper realm. After returning to the inn, Bailey Hongzhuang began to think about what kind of inscription to draw for Wang Yanhan. The inscriptions needed to be suitable for each practitioner's characteristics and attributes. Only in this way could the inscriptions bring out the best effect. Fortunately, she had seen Wang Yanhan's weapon before, and had a certain understanding in her heart. According to what she had learned before, Bailey Hongzhuang began to think carefully until she finally decided on the inscription method. Wang Yanhan was usually very busy with cultivation. As Bailey Hongzhuang's body gradually recovered, he also came over every few days. Because Bailey Hongzhuang did not know anyone else here, he was the only one who was relatively close to her. On this day, when Wang Yanhan received something from Bailey Hongzhuang, he couldn't help but be stunned. Then, a look of astonishment appeared in his eyes. "Little junior sister, this is?" "Inscription." Bailey Hongzhuang smiled and said. Wang Yanhan stared blankly at the ice blue inscription on his hand. He naturally knew that this was an inscription, but he never thought that Bailey Hongzhuang would actually give him an inscription. "Little junior sister, where did you get this inscription?" Chapter 4193. Although she basically put her mind on Beichen's cursed body and the inheritance of the magic tower during this time, she was still very confident in her inscription technique. She believed that after Wang Yanhan's weapon used her inscription, its power would definitely increase by a level. At least, with Wang Yanhan's current cultivation, it was completely enough. After hearing that this inscription was drawn by Bailey Hongzhuang herself, Wang Yanhan couldn't help but be stunned. His eyes were full of surprise. "Little junior sister, I really didn't expect you to be an inscription master." Wang Yanhan couldn't help but exclaim. He carefully looked at Bailey Hongzhuang, as if this news had given him too much of a surprise. "You are so young, but you have mastered the inscription technique. I really underestimated you before. When I saw you, I felt that your temperament was extraordinary. You are not an ordinary person. Now it seems that I was not wrong." What he said was the truth. When he first saw Bailey Hongzhuang, although she was dying at the entrance, he still felt that this woman was not simple at first glance. Of course, her beautiful face was also hard to ignore. Now that he thought about it, he was also somewhat fortunate. Fortunately, he met Bailey Hongzhuang first. Otherwise, if such a beautiful woman was taken away by someone with evil intentions, he really didn't know what would happen. Listening to Wang Yanhan's praise, Bailey Hongzhuang's smile gradually widened. She said with a smile, "Senior brother Wang Yan, I designed it according to the characteristics of your weapon, but I don't know whether it is to your liking or not." Wang Yanhan's weapon had ice attribute. This was something she had discovered a long time ago. Thinking about it, Wang Yanhan's attack method also had ice attribute. Therefore, when she designed it, she mainly amplified the attack power of ice attribute. "To my liking," Wang Yanhan quickly said. "Little junior sister personally designed it for me. How can it not be suitable for me? I will use this inscription. The effect must be very good." Wang Yanhan's expression changed slightly. He understood that Bailey Hongzhuang had heard that his weapon lacked an inscription, so she specially drew one for him. Although he felt that with Bailey Hongzhuang's current age, the effect of the inscription she drew would not be very good for him. No matter what, this was his little junior sister's kind intention, so he naturally had to accept it. What's more, he had already tried. With his conditions, he simply could not afford to pay the inscription master. There was only one inscription master in Rongan City, but his inscription technique was very powerful. Usually, there were countless people who came to ask for an inscription, and the conditions they offered were even more amazing. In addition to him, there were also some other inscription masters. However, their inscription skills were not outstanding enough, and they would not be of any help to him. He had already decided to give up. At this moment, Bailey Hongzhuang took out this inscription. To him, this was already a very good gesture. Bailey Hongzhuang saw that Wang Yanhan felt that this inscription was suitable, even though he did not know what it was used for. While she was surprised, the smile in her eyes became more and more intense. Senior brother Wang Yan was indeed a good person. He took good care of his little junior sister. Senior brother Wang Yan, let me introduce the effect of this inscription to you, Bailey Hongzhuang said with a smile. Chapter 4194. I set this inscription according to the ice attribute of your weapon. It increases the attack power of the ice attribute. According to my judgment, the attack power should be increased by 50%. As Bailey Hongzhuang's voice fell, Wang Yanhan stared at her with his eyes wide open. He couldn't believe it. Little junior sister, did I hear wrong? You said 50%. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. Yes, it is 50%. Originally, I wanted to increase it a little more, but there is a certain danger. It may damage the weapon. I don't have enough assurance, so the increase rate is controlled at 50%. Her delicate face revealed a bit of helplessness. She had to admit that she still needed to practice this level of inscription, because her cultivation had not reached this level before, and her spiritual power had not increased, so the inscription technique was limited to a certain level. However, as far as the current situation was concerned, she felt that it should be enough. At the same time, she also made a decision. That was, she had to practice inscription technique during this time, and strive to increase the level of inscription technique. However, Bailey Hongzhuang did not know that Wang Yanhan was completely stunned by the 50% that she said. Generally speaking, an inscription that could increase a weapon's power by 20 to 30% was already very good. 50% was something that he had never thought of before. Originally, according to his idea, Bailey Hongzhuang's inscription could increase the power of his weapon by 10%, and he would be very satisfied. After all, little junior sister was so young. Although she had learned inscription technique, there was obviously a certain gap. However, little junior sister at this moment said such a large increase. Even if an inscription master helped him inscribe, the effect would not be better. In addition, I added an extra skill. That is, you can store a martial skill in your weapon. The stored martial skill can be instantaneously released. At a critical moment, it should be able to play a big role. Although this skill doesn't seem to be very useful, the life-saving effect is good. Bailey Hongzhuang looked serious. She felt that this setting was very practical. At a critical moment, this skill could save her life. You've added another skill? Instant cast. Wang Yanhan was completely dumbfounded. As far as he knew, it was very difficult to add another skill to the inscription. It was a test of the inscription master's skills. Ordinary inscriptionists wouldn't design inscriptions so carefully unless they received huge benefits or were helping their loved ones. He didn't expect Bailey Hongzhuang to set up such a skill for him. Most importantly, this skill was too practical. Once his essence energy was insufficient, or when he was in a critical juncture, this was completely a protective talisman. He could definitely store his strongest martial arts technique in it for a rainy day. If such a technique were to be spread out, who knew how many people would be envious? Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. With my current inscription technique, I can only do this much. I hope you will like it. I don't just like it. I like it so much. Wang Yanhan's face was full of smiles. Little junior sister, you're really amazing. Chapter 4195. Looking at Wang Yanhan's appearance, Bailey Hongzhuang also felt very amused. This senior fellow apprentice really didn't put on airs at all. Wang Yanhan must have been a respected figure in Penglai Palace before. She didn't expect him to be so approachable. In contrast, although Wang Yanling was also a good person, he was a little more arrogant than Wang Yanhan. No wonder Wang Yanhan had left Penglai Palace for so long. But Wang Yanling still couldn't completely replace him in Penglai Palace. She also knew in her heart that most people wouldn't believe such words at her current age. Except for people who knew her well. Shang Guanning and the others didn't know that she had come here. She didn't know when they would meet again. Little junior sister apprentice, I really like this gift of yours. I can tell at a glance that you must have put in a lot of effort. Thank you. Wang Yanhan's expression was sincere and moved. Bailey Hongzhuang was originally seriously injured and had been recuperating these days. He didn't expect that she would take the trouble to make an inscription for him. He felt ashamed to accept it. Senior fellow apprentice, I should be the one thanking you. Since I came to the upper world, you have been taking care of me. If it weren't for your help, I'm afraid my current situation would be much worse. I don't have anything to repay you now, so I can only make this inscription to express my gratitude. Little junior sister apprentice, you are too polite. We are brothers and sisters of the same sect. It is right to help each other. In this upper world, we should help each other even more. Compared with us cultivators from the lower world. Those who are originally from the upper world have always looked down on us. So we must help each other. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang nodded with a faint smile. Senior fellow apprentice, you are right. Although Wang Yanhan didn't say anything in front of her, she knew that Wang Yanhan's life in the forces he was in now was not easy. This could be seen from Wang Yanhan's casual performance in daily life. However, as a person from the lower world, it was indeed not a simple thing to establish a foothold in the upper world, where there were many masters. Now she was also isolated and helpless here. She could only try her best to do what she could. Junior sister apprentice Bailey, since you have come to the upper world, you can't leave here for a while. You might as well think about what to do next. If there is no place to go, it is better to join the force I am in. Even though Rong'an City is the first city you've come to, it's still one of the most prosperous cities in the upper realm. It is because of this reason that the transmission point is here. Wang Yanhan stared at Bailey Hongzhuang. His eyes were full of worry. Didn't you also say that? Your husband and friends are very strong. They will come to the upper world's upper world. Maybe he would be lucky enough to meet them in Rong'an City. That was not impossible. Besides, if you stay here, I can also do my best to take care of you. After this time he long Hongzhuang. Com Wang Yanhan was a han han han, zhuang a zhuang. Zhuang yu han 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 was not to han 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 long. T. Chapter 4196. Let me think about it, Bailey Hongzhuang said after thinking for a while. She really didn't have any plans now. She came to Rong'an City alone, and the only thing she wanted to do was to meet up with Bewitching and the others. However, Bewitching and the others couldn't come to the upper world in a short period of time, and they didn't have any clues to find the D family. She really didn't know what to do for a while. Wang Yanhan had already suggested this before, but at that time, she felt that she wouldn't stay in Rong'an City for long, so she didn't agree. Now she had unknowingly stayed in Rong'an City for a while, and she had no goal and no place to go. Maybe it was really like what Wang Yanhan said, and they were so lucky to be able to meet up in Rong'an City. Think about it first. Anyway, you're not in a hurry. Wang Yanhan smiled warmly. If you have other plans, it's okay. I'm just making a suggestion. Thank you, senior. I know you mean well. Wang Yanhan smiled. Actually, I'm a little selfish. With you here, at least I can feel a trace of kinship in this unfamiliar Rong'an City, and let me know that I'm not the only one here. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes gradually changed. She and Wang Yanhan had known each other for so long, but this was the first time she saw him reveal such emotions. With Wang Yanhan's friendly personality, even in this unfamiliar place, he should be able to make many friends quickly. However, these friends couldn't understand the feelings of a person from the lower world like him. When he told others that he was from the lower world, they would always look down on him. This sense of superiority was like a city dweller meeting a country dweller. Even if he wasn't arrogant, he would show this in some small details. This sense of superiority seemed to come from his bones. At this moment, Bailey Hongzhuang also understood why Wang Yanhan was so friendly when he saw her. Meeting an old friend in a foreign place was indeed something to be happy about. If I can't think of a place to go, then I'll stay in Rong'an City. Okay. The smile in Wang Yanhan's eyes widened a little. He understood that Bailey Hongzhuang's thoughts had changed. Obviously, she already had plans to stay here. After Wang Yanhan left, Xiao He and Xiao Bai sat in front of Bailey Hongzhuang. Master, why do I feel that senior brother Wang Yan's days here aren't easy? Xiao He frowned as she sighed. Although Wang Yanhan had been smiling brilliantly, she could feel that there was a trace of bitterness in the depths of his smile. In a place like this, as long as you say you are from the lower realms, you will be despised. You can imagine what kind of situation the people from the lower realms are in here. Bailey Hongzhuang looked indifferent. She had already guessed this. After all, they had the same feeling when they first arrived at Penglai Island from the outside world. However, in the upper realm, this feeling was magnified many times over. It is said that although there is an entrance connecting the upper realm and the lower realm, there are not many cultivators who come from the lower realm to the upper realm. Chapter 4197. Although they had always been optimistic, and didn't think it was a big deal to follow their master to this unfamiliar place, they firmly believed in their master's strength, and believed that as long as their master was willing, she would definitely be able to gain a foothold in the upper realm, and even make a name for herself. However, they also realized that the situation this time would be much more difficult than before. Looking at Xiao He and Xiao Bai's worried expressions, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but reach out and pinch their chubby little faces. She said, "Don't think so much. Let's take one step at a time. It might not be as difficult as we think." Although Bailey Hongzhuang guessed that the people from the upper realm might be unkind to the cultivators from the lower realm, she didn't mind. Anyway, she had always endured such contempt and mockery. Even if she encountered the same situation here, it wouldn't be a big deal. Anyway, she had long been used to the supercilious looks from others. However, those who looked down on her would be shocked sooner or later. Yes, yes. Xiao He and Xiao Bai nodded repeatedly. "Master, we believe in you." After Wang Yanhan returned, he took out the inscription that Bailey Hongzhuang gave him. This ice blue inscription was very mysterious. Just by looking at the complicated pattern, one could tell how much effort Bailey Hongzhuang spent to draw it. Little junior sister is really nice. She must have spent a lot of effort to design this inscription for me. Wang Yanhan's lips gradually curled up. Then he copied the inscription onto his weapon. After copying, there was an additional circular blue pattern on his weapon. This color was very compatible with the color of his weapon. It looked very nice. Looking at the weapon in his hand, Wang Yanhan smiled. Little junior sister had really put in a lot of effort. Even the size of the inscription was very suitable for the weapon. I wonder how much my combat power will increase after copying this inscription. I'm really looking forward to it. Just when Wang Yanhan wanted to try it, he realized that it was already time to gather. He could only wait until he returned to test it. He then set off to the martial arts field. After Di Wentao noticed the inscription on Wang Yanhan's weapon, his eyes couldn't help but flash with a trace of surprise. He slowly walked to his side. "Yo, Wang Yanhan, a poor ghost like you can actually invite an inscription master to help you inscribe." Di Wentao sized up Wang Yanhan's inscription patterns. 2 days ago, he was still mocking Wang Yanhan for not being able to hire an inscriptionist. This weapon couldn't keep up with his strength. He didn't expect that in just 2 days, Wang Yanhan's weapon had already completed the inscription pattern. Even if one went to ask an inscription master for help, it would take a long time to line up. Wang Yanhan's actions undoubtedly made him lose face. After Wang Yanhan saw that Di Wentao had arrived, he couldn't help but frown. Di Wentao was a cultivator from the upper realm. Although his strength was on par with his, Di Wentao had always mocked him because of his status. Regarding this, he had always felt very impatient. However, this Di Wentao was clearly a narrow-minded fellow. He always liked to think of ways to target him. A few days ago, because his weapon didn't have any inscriptions, this guy made fun of him in front of everyone, making him feel very embarrassed. Chapter 4198. What does it have to do with you whether I have an inscription on my weapon or not? Wang Yanhan's expression was cold. He looked at Di Wentao with disgust. Di Wentao, you're meddling too much. However, facing Wang Yanhan's cold face, Di Wentao did not care at all. With a wave of his hand, the few cultivators behind him also stood beside him. Their gazes towards Wang Yanhan were filled with ridicule and interest. What? Di Wentao raised his eyebrows. The evil smile in his eyes became more intense. I'm just concerned about you. Why are you so angry? I heard that the inscription master in our Rong and city has been very busy recently. The people who want to find him to inscribe inscriptions have lined up for a few streets. You're able to inscribe so quickly. Don't tell me you found an inscription apprentice to help you inscribe? As he said that, Di Wentao couldn't help but laugh. At the same time, the cultivators behind him also laughed out loud. Wentao, is there a need to think about it? With his little background, can he afford to hire an inscription master? He must have found an inscription apprentice at random. He might even have to beg an inscription apprentice for half a day. After all, cultivators from the lower realm don't have any background. It's very difficult for them to do things. That's right. If he can afford to hire an inscription master, that would be strange. However, he really cares about his reputation. He found an inscription apprentice at random. This is simply a waste of time. It's useless. It's a waste of his weapon. Sentence after sentence of ridicule mercilessly provoked Wang Yanhan. Wang Yanhan's complexion also gradually turned ashen. He had always been unwilling to deal with Di Wentao and the others. On one hand, they had always been in groups and had a certain status here. It would be very troublesome for him to become enemies with them. However, his performance here had been very good recently. The manager also thought highly of him. Perhaps it was because Di Wentao felt that he was a threat to his position, that he kept finding trouble here. The surrounding cultivators were also attracted by the commotion caused by Di Wentao and the others. After seeing that it was Di Wentao who took the initiative to find trouble with Wang Yanhan, everyone was somewhat speechless. This Di Wentao really likes to find trouble. Although Wang Yanhan came from the lower realm, his strength and talent are actually quite outstanding. Otherwise, he wouldn't have received the attention of the manager in such a short time. It is said that Wang Yanhan and Di Wentao were given the position of team leader for this experiential learning mission. Presumably, it is precisely because of this that Di Wentao is thinking of ways to target Wang Yanhan. What a pity! If Wang Yanhan came from the upper realm and not the lower realm, his current situation would be much better. It's precisely because he doesn't have any background and isn't rich enough that he really isn't Di Wentao's match. There's no choice. Things like one's background aren't something that one can decide. In the end, it can only be said that Wang Yanhan didn't choose a good family background. You see, there will be a good show to watch later. Everyone was discussing. Everyone understood that with Wang Yanhan's family background, it was simply impossible to hire an inscription master to help inscribe. In addition, with Di Wentao's personality of wanting to see the world in chaos, it would definitely be difficult for him to step down today. Chapter 4199. Yo, got exposed by me. You admit it so easily. Di Wentao saw that Wang Yanhan admitted it so easily, and he felt bored. He originally thought that Wang Yanhan would put up a strong front for the sake of his face. This way, it would be more interesting if he exposed him. And he could also make him lose face in front of everyone. However, now that Wang Yanhan said this, there was naturally no more fun. I originally didn't ask an inscription master to help inscribe patterns. What's wrong with admitting this point? Wang Yanhan was very calm. Practically everyone here knew about his situation. Even if he wanted to put up a strong front for the sake of his face, there was also no meaning. Moreover, although his background couldn't be compared to these upper realm cultivators, he was also highly regarded here. Just this point alone was already enough. Since you admitted it, then I won't say anything more. Di Wentao shrugged. Why don't you tell me how many spirit stones you spent to ask an inscription apprentice to help you inscribe patterns? I've stayed in this upper realm for so many years, so I understand these situations better than you. You tell me, and I can also help you see whether you made a loss or not. In the future, you can also have a score in your heart. As he spoke, the curve of Di Wentao's lips also gradually widened. No matter what, he must teach Wang Yanhan a lesson today. Before Wang Yanhan came, he had always been the team leader. He didn't expect that the position of team leader actually fell into Wang Yanhan's hands now. He really had no face. If he couldn't turn the tables this time, he definitely wouldn't be happy in his heart. After seeing Di Wentao being so unyielding, the anger in Wang Yanhan's eyes also gradually rose. This fellow, he was already very polite to him. He didn't expect that the other party would reach for a yard after taking an inch, and still not willing to give up. Truly hateful. Di Wentao, why do you always find trouble with Wang Yanhan for no reason? You don't need to worry about how many spirit stones he spent. Yi Haomiao walked to Wang Yanhan's side and glared at Di Wentao. Yi Haomiao, I'm just concerned about Wang Yanhan. Di Wentao didn't care at all. Anyway, as long as he could make Wang Yanhan unhappy today, it didn't matter what other people said about him. You said that Wang Yanhan is a newcomer. Although he has been here for some time, he has never come into contact with inscriptions. As fellow disciples, we naturally have to keep an eye out for him. If we're cheated, we can help him seek justice. Isn't that great? Yi Haomiao frowned. Don't look at how Di Wentao said it in a dignified manner. Actually, they were all very clear in their hearts that this fellow just wanted to get hold of a weakness that could be used against Wang Yanhan to make him unhappy. Wang Yanhan, you can't be so petty, right? The inscription pattern has already been inscribed, and you are not even willing to state the price? Di Wentao walked to Wang Yanhan's side. Could it be that the level of your inscription is too low, and you're too embarrassed to say it? Wang Yanhan looked at Di Wentao, who was thinking of ways to get information out of him. He understood in his heart that if he did not say it today, Di Wentao would definitely not let the matter rest. Di Wentao, I don't need your fake kindness. Everyone knows what you're thinking. You don't have to bother to find out where I did this inscription pattern. This is the inscription pattern that my little junior sister gave me. I just copied it today. Chapter 4200. Junior sister? This time, not only was Di Wentao stunned, the other cultivators present were also stunned. How come they had never heard that Wang Yanhan had a junior sister? Yi Haomiao also looked at Wang Yanhan in astonishment. He had also never heard Wang Yanhan mention anything about his junior sister. Wang Yanhan, even if you want to lie to us, you have to give a more reliable reason. We never knew that you had a junior sister. You're not a roundworm in my stomach. Naturally, you wouldn't know everything about me. Wang Yanhan's expression was cold. My junior sister only got to know me recently. She saw that I didn't have an inscription and helped me draw one. Oh, Di Wentao dragged out his voice. The ridicule in his voice was very obvious. Then your junior sister really treats you exceptionally well. She knows what you lack and gives you what you need. However, an inscription drawn by a junior sister from the lower realm. I'm afraid it's as trashy as it can be, right? Following Di Wentao's words, Wang Yanhan's expression suddenly changed. A trace of sternness flashed across his deep eyes. This was a gift from his junior sister. No matter what the effect of this inscription was, just this kind intention was very precious to him. How could he let Di Wentao trample on it so casually? Whether my inscription is good or not, that's my business. It's fine as long as I like it. On the other hand, Di Wentao, you keep saying that my inscription isn't good enough. From what I know, your inscription doesn't seem to have been drawn by an inscription master, right? Don't tell me. You found an inscription apprentice yourself. That's why you're so concerned about me now. Wang Yanhan's lips suddenly curled into a mocking arc. All along he had always given in. However, this time, he didn't want to continue giving in. Although after coming to the upper realm, there was a period of time when he felt inferior in front of these people because of his birth. However, Wang Yanhan was also a genius from the lower realm. Why couldn't he have a foothold here? Now that he was able to replace Di Wentao's position, didn't this already prove himself? Di Wentao, who was originally still ridiculing Wang Yanhan, had his smile suddenly freeze at this moment. That pair of eyes filled with ridicule also gradually narrowed, adding a trace of sharpness and anger. Wang Yanhan, are you trying to challenge me? Di Wentao's voice suddenly turned cold. The joking tone disappeared, replaced by a threat. From the beginning to the end, you've been looking for trouble with me. If you think so, then so be it. After all, haven't you always refused to listen to what others say? As soon as he said that, Di Wentao's right foot suddenly stomped on the ground. His gaze was cold and icy. According to what you're saying, my inscriptions can't be compared to yours? You dare to compare the trash inscription pattern that your shitty junior sister drew with mine? If you have the ability, then let's compete. I will let you know how trashy your inscription patterns are. Just like you, they are all trashy. Di Wentao directly took out his weapon, his eyes flickering with raging fury. Clearly, he would not rest until he made a move on Wang Yanhan today. You're the trash. Wang Yanhan's voice was cold. The cold light in his eyes was like a blade, sharp and cold. Yi Haomiao and the rest looked at Wang Yanhan in astonishment. Usually Wang Yanhan was very low-key. Why did his temper suddenly change today? Chapter 4201. I'm trash. Di Wentao pointed at himself and sneered. Since that's the case, let's have a good competition. Let's have a competition then. Do you think I'm afraid of you? Wang Yanhan's expression was firm. Little junior sister had just arrived, and did not have much fear of the upper realm. As a senior brother, he was still immersed in the emotions of being suppressed. In comparison, he was too weak. In the end, he was still quite grateful to little junior sister. If she had not come here, and reminded him of the time in Punglai Palace, he would have almost forgotten that he was also respected by everyone in the past. Cultivation was to change one's fate. Heroes did not matter where they came from, as long as he could establish himself here, and make a name for himself. Then, so what if he was a cultivator from the lower realm? At least, no matter what, he should not lose this courage. After seeing Wang Yanhan's firm attitude, Yi Haomiao could not help but pull Wang Yanhan to the side. His eyes were filled with worry. Wang Yanhan, what's wrong with you today? Wang Yanhan glanced at Yi Haomiao and said, I know you're worried about me, but I've already made my decision today. Sigh. Yi Haomiao sighed. I have to tell you, just now, I happened to hear that Di Wentao's inscription was made by the inscription master's proudest disciple. Although it's still lacking compared to the inscription master, its power is already quite good. It can help Di Wentao's combat power increase by nearly 40%. Although your previous strength was not much different from his, now that he has this weapon, you're obviously at a disadvantage. This guy is definitely not a soft-hearted person. You took away his position as the leader, and he has always hated you. Previously, you kept dodging, so he couldn't find a reason to attack you. Now that you're facing him head-on, he will definitely take the opportunity to injure you. While there's still room for negotiation, you should quickly change your words. Yi Haomiao's eyes were filled with worry. Looking at his appearance, it was obvious that he wished he could help Wang Yanhan reject him. However, Wang Yanhan's attitude did not change because of his words. On the contrary, he was still so firm. Do you think that the situation will change just because I changed my words today? It was only a matter of time. If he wanted to deal with me, he would find all sorts of excuses. Since that's the case, I might as well give him a dignified reason. Di Wentao naturally knew that Yi Haomiao was persuading Wang Yanhan. It wasn't easy for him to seize such an opportunity. He absolutely couldn't let Wang Yanhan give up just like this. Immediately he hurriedly said, Wang Yanhan, since we're going to compete, we naturally have to have some stakes. What do you think? Hearing this, Wang Yanhan's lips curved into a cold arc. Di Wentao, just say what you're planning. Awesome. Di Wentao clapped his hands. My idea is very simple. As long as I win, you will hand over the position of captain. The crowd burst into an uproar when these words were spoken. He had already guessed that Di Wentao didn't have any good intentions, but he didn't expect him to dig such a big hole this time. He wanted to use this opportunity to take back the position of captain. Chapter 4202. No matter what wager you say, it's not a problem. Di Wentao spread out his hands, his expression indifferent and wanton. Obviously, he was sure that he had no possibility of losing. Okay. Wang Yanhan replied. If I win, you have to remember that you're my defeated opponent and take a detour when you see me. You're not allowed to find trouble with me again. After hearing Wang Yanhan's words, Di Wentao's expression was a little ugly. The other party's request was really making him lose face. However, after thinking that Wang Yanhan had no possibility of winning, he nodded. Okay, I promise you. After everyone saw that Wang Yanhan and Di Wentao had reached the same agreement, their expressions instantly became interesting. Di Wentao is totally setting a trap for Wang Yanhan. Usually, Wang Yanhan seems quite smart. Even if he can't afford to offend him, he can still hide. What's wrong with him today? He actually bumped into it himself. Wang Yanhan finally got the steward's attention. If he loses this battle, and takes the initiative to hand over the position of leader to Di Wentao, I'm afraid that the steward will be very disappointed. Sigh, Wang Yanhan really made an unwise decision this time. Everyone sighed faintly. Although they knew that Wang Yanhan came from the lower realm, and had a low status, they also knew that this Wang Yanhan was indeed the real deal. Among all the cultivators here, his speed of improvement was the fastest. Just based on his own efforts to gain the steward's trust, this was already very difficult. However, success or failure depended on this. If he lost today's battle, it would be even more difficult for Wang Yanhan to establish himself here in the future. Almost no one thought that Wang Yanhan would win. Even Yi Haomiao had a helpless expression. He already tried his best to persuade Wang Yanhan, but didn't expect that the other party wouldn't listen to him at all. He was also extremely helpless. Let's start. Di Wentao's expression became increasingly proud. He immediately raised his voice. Everyone present will stay behind to be witnesses, in case someone wants to go back on his words after losing. Hearing that, no one had any intention of leaving. Although they had already determined the outcome of today's battle, they still wanted to see to the end. They wanted to know if there would be a chance for a turn of events at the end. The next moment, the two of them directly stood on the stage with a leap. The cold wind whistled, scraping against his body like a knife. It was bone-piercing cold. At this moment, their gazes were as sharp as blades as they stared at each other. The old and new hatred overlapped at this moment, and all the hatred seemed to want to take this opportunity to completely end it. Wang Yanhan slowly took out his weapon and rubbed the icy blue inscription on the weapon with his right hand. Just nice, he could use this opportunity to test the effect of this inscription pattern. Dense origin energy erupted from their bodies, and in the next instant, the flames of battle were directly ignited. The figures of the two people were like the wind, the soles of their feet abruptly stomping on the ground as they charged out like cannonballs. Their vigorous origin energy was extremely shocking, and the moves they used were ruthless and merciless. Ding! The weapons collided, creating sparks. Wang Yanhan waved his long sword with his right hand, his expression cold and cautious. Although he despised Di Wentao's despicable methods, he had no choice but to admit that the other party's strength was not to be underestimated. Therefore, he had never intended to underestimate the other party. Ding ding ding. Chapter 4203. Di Wentao thought that he would be able to break Wang Yanhan's weapon in one move, because the other party's weapon couldn't be compared to his. But after this exchange, he couldn't maintain the smug look on his face, because he realized that Wang Yanhan's weapon was extremely sharp. The originally powerful ice energy had a huge increase, and was much stronger than before. This is impossible. This thought flashed across Di Wentao's mind at the first moment. But in the following exchange, the situation clearly told him that everything was true. Wang Yanhan was shocked after he made his move. Although he heard Bailey Hongzhuang say that this inscription pattern could increase the power of the weapon by 50%, he didn't take it to heart, because a 50% increase was too shocking. With Bailey Hongzhuang's current age, it was impossible for her to achieve this. But he was very clear about how powerful his weapon was. Previously, he felt that this weapon couldn't keep up with his current strength, and it wasn't easy to buy a suitable weapon with ice attribute. So he could only continue to use it. But when he used this sword today, he realized that this sword was extremely handy. All his energy could be transmitted through this weapon, without any hindrance. On the contrary, the power was extremely strong. From Di Wentao's change in expression, it could be seen that he wasn't the only one who felt this. Could it be that what little junior sister said was true? This weapon's amplification is really so powerful? Wang Yanhan was pleasantly surprised. This weapon's amplification was completely out of his expectations. He didn't think that what little junior sister said was true. So little junior sister's inscription pattern technique was actually so powerful. He underestimated little junior sister previously. The other cultivators were waiting for Wang Yanhan to be utterly defeated. But when they noticed that the person who was utterly defeated was actually Di Wentao, everyone couldn't help but be dumbfounded. What situation is this? Wang Yanhan actually suppressed Di Wentao? This is impossible. Their strength was always on par. Adding on the inscription pattern on Di Wentao's weapon, the winner should be Di Wentao. Why is the situation completely opposite? Didn't you guys notice that Wang Yanhan's battle power is much stronger than before? His weapon also seems to be powerful, so his strength increased greatly. There were many discerning people among the cultivators present. The reason why Wanyan wanted to inscribe his weapon was because his weapon couldn't withstand the power he released. So, it caused him to be unable to fully unleash his power during the battle. This time, Wanyan didn't feel any hindrance during the battle. On the contrary, it was like flowing water. His battle power wasn't comparable to usual. From the looks of it, Wanyan's inscription pattern this time. Originally, he thought that Di Wentao had set a trap for Wanyan. He did not expect that the situation was the complete opposite. It was actually Wanyan who had set a trap for Di Wentao. This time Di's really going to lose face. Chapter 4204. A deep smile appeared in Yi Haomiao's eyes. Turns out that I was worried for nothing. Wanyan had already thought of a foolproof plan long ago. Instead, it was me who almost ruined his plans. Let's see how Di Wentao can still be arrogant now. Bang! Following Wanyan's move, Di Wentao's figure fell heavily onto the ground. Just as he was preparing to climb up, Wanyan's sharp sword had already stopped at his neck. His movements instantly stagnated. You lost. Wanyan looked down at Di Wentao from above. His gaze was icy cold, but the corners of his lips slowly curved up into a smile. Di Wentao stared blankly at Wanyan. His face turned ashen, and his eyes flickered with thick unwillingness, but he was powerless. Everyone was in an uproar. Everyone looked at this outcome in astonishment. This was really too different from what they had imagined. This completely overturned the result that they had thought of. Wanyan, you purposely set a trap for me. Di Wentao stood up furiously. His gaze towards Wanyan was filled with indignation and fury. He was wondering why this Wanyan's personality suddenly changed today, and actually agreed to his suggestion for a battle. Turns out that this fellow was full of confidence in his own inscription pattern, and purposely set this up. Hearing Di Wentao's words, Wanyan stretched out a finger and shook it. Di Wentao, what you said doesn't make any sense. From start to end, regarding this inscription pattern, I didn't take the initiative to mention a single word, right? It's you who kept forcing me step by step. It's also you who suggested a battle. Now that you've lost, you actually pushed all of this onto me. Even though I already knew that you're shameless, but doing this, isn't it a little too shameless? Following Wanyan's words, Di Wentao's originally ashen face became as black as the bottom of a pot. Indeed, this matter was completely suggested by him. However, he still firmly believed that Wanyan absolutely did it on purpose. Because this fellow's performance today was really too abnormal. Wasn't all of this purposely luring me into a trap? Di Wentao snorted coldly. This inscription pattern of yours wasn't drawn by some little junior sister at all. It was drawn by a master. You actually pretended to be a pig to eat the tiger in front of me, and purposely tricked me. A bet is a bet. Wanyan simply couldn't be bothered to pay attention to what Di Wentao was saying now. Instead, he went straight to the point. In the future, when you see me, it's best to take a detour, and don't come looking for any trouble with me. I hope you can do what you say. You. Di Wentao looked at Wanyan unwillingly. However, after noticing the gazes around him, he could only suppress his angry words. If he didn't admit it in front of so many people, it would indeed be somewhat embarrassing. The several cultivators behind Di Wentao also had dissatisfied expressions. Their wishful thinking was very good. They originally wanted to take advantage of this opportunity to snatch back Di Wentao's position as the captain, but they didn't expect to go for wool and come home shorn. This time, they really lost a lot of face, thinking that they would have to take a detour if they saw Wanyan in the future. What face would they have left? Wanyan faintly glanced at Di Wentao and didn't continue to stay. He had already said so much. He believed that Di Wentao wouldn't slap his own face in the future. Chapter 4205. After Wanyan turned around and left, the cultivators present also burst into an uproar. Di Wentao really dug a hole and buried himself in it today. Usually, he likes to find trouble with Wanyan the most. After today's incident, he won't be able to be arrogant in front of Wanyan anymore. Today was really a good show. However, The effect of Wanyan Han's inscription pattern is indeed amazing. I remember that his combat strength wasn't so strong previously. This weapon increased his strength by quite a bit. With Wanyan Han's current strength, he is fully deserving of being the leader. The cultivators all sighed. They who were still criticizing Wanyan Han previously didn't have any doubts at this moment. With this kind of strength, he could indeed be their leader. Di Wentao, this Wanyan Han is getting worse and worse recently. He's clearly tricking you on purpose. The cultivators standing behind Di Wentao didn't look any better than Di Wentao after hearing everyone's discussion. They were originally in the same camp as Di Wentao. Now that Di Wentao was ruthlessly trampled on, they naturally lost face. Yeah, his inscription pattern is definitely not ordinary. Previously, he kept pretending in front of us. Truly abominable. Then what do we do in the future? Do we really have to take a detour when we see him? Di Wentao's mood was already very unhappy. At this moment, after hearing the words of the people behind him, he couldn't help but feel a surge of anger. Take a detour? What qualifications does he have to make me take a detour? The person who should scram is him. Raging flames of anger burned in Di Wentao's eyes. With paranoia and madness, he must get rid of this thorn in his side today. Wanyan Han and Yi Haomiao walked all the way back to their residence. Both of their footsteps were very slow. Today's battle was really abnormally delightful for them. However, suddenly, a tyrannical attack struck towards Wanyan Han. Feeling the air wave behind him, Yi Haomiao couldn't help but frown. When he turned around and saw everything clearly, he couldn't help but shout, "Wanyan Han, be careful!" Bang! A violent blue light flashed past, and an explosion resounded. Everyone's vision suddenly became blurry. The smoke and dust that filled the sky blocked the surroundings, making it impossible for them to see the scene clearly. A look of disbelief flashed across the faces of the practitioners present. No one had thought that after the competition ended, Di Wentao would actually go and find trouble with Wanyan Han. This is a sneak attack. It seems that Di Wentao has really gone mad this time. He can even do such a thing. Di Wentao's actions are truly too much. If you agree to a bet, you must accept your loss. His sneak attack from behind is truly too despicable. Everyone's faces were ugly. Although they all knew that Di Wentao had always been narrow-minded, they never thought that this guy would actually do such a thing. At this moment, everyone suddenly felt contempt for Di Wentao. At the very least, as a captain, he needed to have a certain amount of tolerance and principles. However, Di Wentao was simply too intolerant. This wasn't a good thing. For a moment, everyone was worried about Wanyan Han. If Di Wentao's sneak attack succeeded, then Wanyan Han would definitely suffer heavy injuries, and the villain would gain the upper hand. Silence. Chapter 4206. As the dust gradually dispersed, when everyone saw the situation in front of them, they couldn't help but widen their eyes in disbelief. Because the situation in front of them was completely different from what they had imagined. The one who fell on the ground wasn't Wanyan Han, but Di Wentao. This time, not only were they dumbfounded, even Di Wentao's good friends couldn't help but rub their eyes, thinking that they were seeing things. How could the one who fell on the ground be Di Wentao? However, no matter how they looked at it, the situation didn't change at all. Wanyan Han just stood there perfectly fine, as if the person who was ambushed wasn't him. His expression was calm and indifferent, like the clear wind and bright moon unparalleled. On the contrary, Di Wentao was lying on the ground at this moment, his face somewhat pale, and there were faint traces of blood seeping out from his clothes. Obviously, the ambush just now had injured him quite badly. How could this be? This thought flashed in almost everyone's mind. This was too inconceivable. Yi Haomiao also looked at Wanyan Han in astonishment, unable to wrap his head around it for a moment. He only felt that Wanyan Han's performance today was really too unexpected, too different from his usual self. How did you do it? Di Wentao looked at Wanyan Han unwillingly, shock and confusion flashing in his eyes. When he attacked just now, he attacked with the intention of killing the other party's target. Moreover, his speed was extremely fast, and his voice was extremely soft, not giving the other party any time to react. According to the situation of his attack just now, Even if Wang Yanhan discovered his ambush later on, the most he could do was dodge, and he couldn't display a martial technique that was close to his power at all. However, although this was his judgment, Wang Yanhan didn't act according to common sense at all. At that critical moment, Wang Yanhan actually counterattacked suddenly without any warning. He didn't even see Wang Yanhan's hand sign, nor did he feel the fluctuation of yuan power in his body. But this martial technique appeared out of thin air. For a moment, the person who was caught off guard was him, causing him to be completely dumbfounded. However, the intense pain that came from his body clearly told him that all of this was real. Although all of this seemed so unbelievable, it really happened. Why should I tell you? Wang Yanhan coldly looked at Di Wentao. The coldness in his eyes was like a 10,000-year-old lake. I originally thought that you would at least keep your promise in front of everyone. However, it seems that I have overestimated you. Di Wentao's complexion turned ugly, and he felt a burning pain on his face. If his sneak attack was successful, and he managed to kill Wang Yanhan, it would be fine. However, he didn't expect that not only was Wang Yanhan fine, he was the one who was seriously injured. This was really embarrassing. At this moment, he didn't even dare to look at the gazes of the people around him. He wished he could find a hole in the ground and crawl into it. If he had known earlier, he wouldn't have launched a sneak attack on Wang Yanhan. Unfortunately, it was too late to regret now. Di Wentao, you should rejoice. There is a rule here that forbids you from attacking your fellow disciples. If we were outside, I would definitely not be courteous to you. Wang Yanhan's gaze was cold, and his voice was icy to the extreme. If you see me in the future, you better take a detour. Otherwise, I will let you relive today's taste. Chapter 4207. Wang Yanhan left just like that. Because he knew that today's situation was enough to make Di Wentao look bad. He didn't need to say anything more. The calmer he appeared, the more it set off Di Wentao's despicable nature. One could imagine how depressed the latter was at this moment. Di Wentao looked at Wang Yanhan's departing figure. He still fell heavily on the ground. Even if he wanted to stand up, he couldn't do it. At that time, he was so close to Wang Yanhan. He didn't dodge the other party's attack at all, and it all landed on his body. At this moment, he only felt a burning pain in his internal organs, as if they were displaced. He even tasted a trace of fishy sweetness in his mouth. Di Wentao's friend hurriedly rushed to his side and helped him up. However, Di Wentao couldn't control himself at all. A mouthful of blood violently spurted out just like that. His entire aura withered. Seeing this scene, everyone was stunned. No one thought that Wang Yanhan's strength would suddenly become so much stronger. Previously, Wang Yanhan's strength was clearly on par with Di Wentao. Now, in just a short period of time, he could seriously injure Di Wentao to this extent. It could be seen how powerful he was. In the future, this Di Wentao really doesn't have the capital to challenge Wang Yanhan. His current strength can't be compared to Wang Yanhan at all. That's right. After this incident, if he still dares to find trouble with Wang Yanhan, then his skin is really thick enough. Everyone gradually dispersed. However, Di Wentao still stood at the same spot. His face was ashen and complicated. His hands under his sleeves gradually clenched into fists. Deep hatred burned in his eyes. If it was said that he only hated Wang Yanhan previously, then after today, it had completely turned into hatred. He hated this damned fellow. After snatching the position that originally belonged to him, he made him lose so much face. If he couldn't chase Wang Yanhan out like this, he would definitely not let this matter rest. Wang Yanhan, how did you do it just now? Yi Haomiao looked at Wang Yanhan curiously. His eyes were filled with curiosity. That situation just now, even he felt that it was extremely dangerous. Luckily, Wang Yanhan directly pushed him to the side at the crucial moment. Only then could he narrowly escape. Otherwise, under that kind of attack, not only Wang Yanhan, even he would be seriously injured. However, from the start to the end, he didn't see how Wang Yanhan had attacked. How could his martial skill achieve an instantaneous effect? Even now, when he recalled the scene from before, he still felt that there were some things he couldn't explain. Looking at Yi Haomiao's curious expression, Wang Yanhan couldn't help but chuckle. It's all thanks to the inscription pattern little junior sister gave me. Yi Haomiao was slightly taken aback when he heard that. He asked in confusion. The martial skill you used just now is related to inscriptions. Wang Yanhan nodded slightly. That's right. It was this inscription that saved my life. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to deal with that situation just now. The one who would be heavily injured would definitely be me. Even though the sneak attack had already passed, Wang Yanhan still couldn't help having some lingering fear in his heart. If it wasn't for the fact that the inscription that little junior sister gave him had this function, and that he had stored a martial skill in it out of curiosity, he might have lost his life in that situation just now. Chapter 4208. Was this inscription really given to you by your junior sister? Yi Haomiao's eyes flickered with ridicule, not hiding his curiosity at all. I've never heard of you having a junior sister. When did you meet her? Wang Yanhan smiled. I met her not long ago. She happens to be from the same force as me. After knowing that my weapon needs an inscription, she specially drew one for me. In that case, your junior sister isn't just powerful. She also has deep feelings for you. Yi Haomiao dragged out his voice, hinting at something, but there was a trace of envy in the depths of his eyes. To be able to have such a junior sister was truly something to be envied. Inscriptions might not be difficult for others, but to them, it was definitely not easy to invite a master to help them with inscriptions. Don't think too much. Junior sister is already married. We're just fellow disciples who have a good relationship. Wang Yanhan's smile didn't fade. After meeting Bailey Hongzhuang in the upper realm, he had a feeling that he had met his family. After all, he was looked down upon everywhere in the upper realm. To be able to meet a cultivator who came from the same place as him was really something to be happy about. Oh, Yi Haomiao curled his lips. That's really a pity. Wang Yanhan smiled faintly and didn't say anything. He didn't have any other thoughts. From Bailey Hongzhuang's expression when she mentioned Bewitching, he could see that the couple had deep feelings for each other. He believed that Bewitching would come here to reunite with Bailey Hongzhuang soon. During this period of time, he could take good care of Bailey Hongzhuang. They could be considered to be helping each other. Wang Yanhan, based on what you did today, you already knew that the inscription had such a powerful effect, so you deliberately set a trap for Di Wentao. If you had such a sentence, you should have told me earlier. You made me expose you and almost ruined it. Until now, Yi Haomiao couldn't help but sigh. He really didn't expect Wang Yanhan, who had always been very low-key, to suddenly turn around this time. It was completely beyond his expectations. Actually, this wasn't planned by me. Moreover, I just got the inscription pattern not long ago, and I didn't have the time to test its power. Although little junior sister told me that it was very powerful, my little junior sister was too young, so I didn't believe her too much at that time. However, Di Wentao kept pressuring me step by step, so I was forced to agree to his request. I didn't expect the effects to be as great as my junior sister said. Even I was surprised. Until now, Wang Yanhan was still immersed in the power of the inscription pattern. Although they had not fought for a long time, he could clearly feel that this weapon could now completely keep up with his strength. There was no hindrance when he used his origin energy, and it had completely raised his combat strength by a large margin, which was really delightful. What? Yi Haomiao was stunned. So you didn't know before? Aren't you a little too bold? What if you lose? What will you do this time? Chapter 4209. Wang Yanhan raised his head and looked at the sky. He felt that the sky was exceptionally blue today, and the sun was exceptionally bright. He was once in existence that everyone envied in the lower realm. Now he had always lowered his head. This kind of repressive feeling had existed in his heart for a long time. Now that he had completely released it, he felt refreshed. Yi Haomiao also noticed Wang Yanhan's current mood. A smile immediately appeared on his lips. Wang Yanhan, your strength is actually not inferior to Di Wentao's. Now that your weapon has been inscribed, your combat strength has even surpassed his. From now on, you don't have to endure at all. Although the cultivators in the upper realm have some prejudice against the cultivators from the lower realm, the law of the strong being respected has never changed. As long as you are stronger than him, he can't be arrogant in front of you. I believe that with your potential, you will soon be able to gain a foothold in the upper realm. Wang Yanhan turned his head and saw Yi Haomiao's confident gaze. The corners of his lips couldn't help but curl up a little. Then he nodded firmly. We will all make a name for ourselves. Right, I wonder if I have a chance to meet your little junior sister? A young and powerful inscription master. I also want to get to know her. Yi Haomiao smiled. Wang Yanhan thought for a moment and said, I have to ask my little junior sister first. If she agrees, I will bring you to see her. As his good friend, he trusted Yi Haomiao very much. Ever since he came to the upper realm, his best friend was Yi Haomiao. However, this matter had to be approved by Bailey Hongzhuang first. Hearing this, Yi Haomiao nodded. Okay. What happened today had spread rapidly in a short period of time. In a moment, everyone in the force already knew about it. Di Wentao was ruthlessly stepped on by Wang Yanhan just like that. This made everyone present feel shocked. Compared to everyone's enthusiasm, Di Wentao's hatred for Wang Yanhan gradually deepened. Quickly help me follow Wang Yanhan. I want to know if he really has a little junior sister. Di Wentao's eyes flashed with a ruthless light. Until now, he had never been so humiliated. Although Wang Yanhan said it in all seriousness, he didn't believe it at all. The other party was just a cultivator from the lower realm. How could he have such a powerful junior sister in inscription technique? I will immediately follow him. Rest at ease and recuperate. Okay. Di's voice was low. When my injuries recover, I will definitely teach him a lesson. This Wang Yanhan is really troublesome. His current battle prowess is much stronger than before. If we allow him to continue developing like this, he will definitely become a big problem in the future. That's right. I originally thought that I would be able to use this opportunity to deal with him, or at least make him give up on fighting with us. Who would have thought that I don't know where this brat got the inscription patterns, and even heavily injured Wentao? Yan Xiangming looked at Di Wentao curiously, his eyes full of puzzlement. W. Chapter 42:10. Di Wentao also fell into deep thought. This was also something that he couldn't understand all along. At that time, he was certain that he would definitely succeed. He didn't expect that there would be such a reversal in the end. So much, so that he was completely stunned at that time. Although he was the one who launched the sneak attack first, he felt as if he was the one who was sneak attacked. Actually, I don't really understand either. At that time, Wang Yanhan's martial technique seemed to be instantaneous. Logically speaking, such a strong martial technique can't be instantaneous. I also feel that Wang Yanhan's martial technique was executed too quickly. Yan Xiangming nodded. Did you notice that he condensed a hand seal? Di Wentao shook his head. No. At that time, he only took out his weapon. Immediately after, the martial technique was directly released. I happened to be extremely close to him, so I was heavily injured by him. Following Di Wentao's words, all the cultivators present were dumbfounded. They completely couldn't understand what was going on. It was really too incomprehensible. Logically speaking, this is simply impossible. Could it be that Wang Yanhan is so abnormal that he can actually instantaneously execute martial techniques now? If it's like this, then it's really too terrifying. All the cultivators couldn't help but change their expressions. If that cultivator's martial technique could be instantaneously executed, then it would really be terrifying. During a fight, this was definitely a great weapon. When the opponent executed the martial technique, his martial technique had already been released. In this way, who could compare with him? Don't panic. I feel that this is something impossible. Until now, I have never heard of anyone who can instantaneously execute such a strong martial technique. However, I have heard that some powerful inscriptions can store martial techniques, thus protecting the owner's life in times of danger. Once this was said, everyone was stunned again. Although this explanation was also unbelievable, at least it was more believable than Shun Fa's explanation. Could it be that Wang Yanhan's inscriptions are actually powerful to such an extent? Then his junior sister is really too terrifying. She's completely an inscription master. Di Wentao carefully thought for a moment before nodding. This is indeed very possible. When I fought with him, I discovered that the power of his weapon had increased by a lot. If I didn't judge wrongly, the power has increased by at least 40%. I'm afraid it has reached 50%. Hiss! Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air, as they looked at Di Wentao's serious face in shock. The degree of improvement was simply too terrifying. Even an inscription drawn by an inscription master might not be able to achieve this. Moreover, this inscription pattern also had the function of storing martial skills. For a moment, everyone felt that Wang Yanhan's weapon had become a treasure. If they killed Wang Yanhan, they would have to get their hands on this weapon. With these two functions, the value of this weapon would increase greatly. No wonder Wang Yanhan said that this inscription pattern was specially made for him by his little junior sister. It seems that it is indeed very suitable for him. We have to get rid of them as soon as possible. Otherwise, with the help of this little junior sister, Wang Yanhan's improvement will be even more shocking. Di Wentao, Yan Xiangming, and the others looked at each other and made up their minds. He definitely couldn't let him continue like this, otherwise, it would really be troublesome. Chapter 42:11. Wang Yanhan went to look for Bailey Hongzhuang immediately after knowing the power of this skill. Now he felt that he had underestimated his junior sister. Little junior sister had helped him so much, so he had to be grateful to her. As soon as Bailey Hongzhuang opened the door, she saw Wang Yanhan come in with a happy face. As soon as he entered the room, Wang Yanhan said, "Little junior sister, I didn't expect the inscription you gave me to be so powerful." I was stunned. His dark eyes shone with surprise, shining like the stars in the sky. Wang Yanhan was in ecstasy, and it was all shown on his face. Looking at Wang Yanhan's surprised look, Bailey Hongzhuang's smile widened. "Senior brother, as long as you like it." "Junior sister, I didn't expect your inscription technique to be so powerful. It's really an eye-opener. Today, it's all thanks to the skill you set in the inscription pattern. Otherwise, I'm afraid the person who would be seriously injured would be me. You've saved my life." Although Wang Yanhan appeared to be very indifferent previously, in fact, he was already extremely excited in his heart long ago. The inscription pattern that his junior sister drew for him not only helped him get back his face, it also saved his life. He didn't know how to thank her. However, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but frown. "You were almost seriously injured today?" The reason why she designed this skill was to save her life at a crucial moment. But she didn't expect to use it so quickly. Wang Yanhan nodded. "The person who was always my enemy took the chance to sneak attack me. Coincidentally, he had this skill and was caught off guard. He wanted to injure me, but he didn't expect the person who was seriously injured would be him. Junior sister, it's all thanks to you. Senior brother, it seems that the environment you're in is quite dangerous." Her ink-black phoenix eyes were filled with worry and complexity. Although Wang Yanhan's words were light, Bailey Hongzhuang was very clear in her heart that today's situation was extremely dangerous. Danger is unavoidable when you're outside. Wang Yanhan sighed. "Junior sister, you have to be more careful when you're outside. The upper realm is much more dangerous than the lower realm. The slightest bit of carelessness could cost you your life." Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. "I understand. Junior sister, your inscription technique is so powerful. It's comparable to an inscription master. I was a little worried about your life here, but now it seems that I was worried for nothing." Wang Yanhan rubbed his head and smiled sincerely. With such a skill, there would be countless cultivators who wanted to seek help from Bailey Hongzhuang. From the looks of it now, there was really no need to worry. Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled. "It's my first time here, so I need to be careful." She had many skills, so it wasn't difficult for her to gain a foothold. However, there was only one inscription master in the entire Rong'an city. It could be seen that he had completely dominated the inscription market. If her appearance broke this situation, it would be very troublesome. However, she wasn't in a hurry. She would take one step at a time. The most important thing was to increase her cultivation. "Oh right, junior sister. I have a good friend who wants to meet you after knowing about you. He's a friend that I've known for a long time. Are you willing?" Wang Yanhan asked with a smile. Chapter 42:12. After Wang Yanhan had left, Bailey Hongzhuang was preparing to cultivate when she suddenly felt a commotion coming from the chaos ring. Hearing this movement, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes could not help but light up, and she immediately entered the chaos ring. The moment she entered, she saw Xiao He and Xiao Bai's joyful faces. "Master, Bai Shi has finally woken up." Bailey Hongzhuang's face instantly lit up with joy, and she immediately noticed that Bai Shi had woken up. "Master, you've finally woken up after being unconscious for so many days. Bai Shi has made you worry, Master." Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head. "As long as you've woken up, that's all that matters. Do you feel uncomfortable anywhere?" "No, I'm fine," Bai Shi replied joyfully. "Master, Bai Shi has indeed broken through as you said. He's now a Starlight Realm demonic beast." Xiao Hei's face lit up with joy. Even though she wasn't the one who had broken through, she was still very happy to see Bai Shi's improvement. Bailey Hongzhuang carefully sensed Bai Shi's aura, and her eyes lit up. "Indeed, he's already broken through to the Starlight Realm." Bai Shi chuckled. "Seeing that all of you are still safe and sound, I'm simply too happy." Previously, he had been worried that everyone would lose their lives, and had been extremely depressed. Now that he had opened his eyes to see everyone standing in front of him, perfectly fine, he felt extremely happy. The previous situation had been a little too dangerous, but fortunately, it was a blessing in disguise for us. You've even broken through the barrier and reached the Starlight Realm. Bailey Hongzhuang's expression was calm, and her bright eyes revealed a faint joy. Breaking through to the Starlight Realm was not an easy task. Under normal circumstances, Bai Shi would have needed some time before he could break through completely. However, he had now taken advantage of this opportunity to break through to the Starlight Realm. "By the way, White Lion, do you know what happened earlier? How did we reach the upper realm?" Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Bai Shi. Back then, she wasn't sure about the situation. Now, she could only hope that Bai Shi would understand. "I remember it was the White Dragon." White Lion pondered and said, "It was too dangerous back then. Perhaps White Dragon woke up instinctively and used its strongest power to bring us away from the center of the explosion. In order to ensure our safety, the White Dragon rushed all the way into the tunnel." Upon hearing Bai Shi's words, Bailey Hongzhuang, Xiao He, and Xiao Bai could not help but look at each other. It seemed that their previous judgment was not wrong. Sure enough, all of this was done by the White Dragon. No wonder the White Dragon's condition is worse than when he was unconscious. He was trying to save us. Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but look at the unconscious White Dragon. At this moment, White Dragon was very weak. It would take a long time for it to recover. She didn't expect White Dragon to save them. When White Dragon woke up, she must treat it well. White Dragon was already severely exhausted. After doing so many things, it really wasn't easy. Xiao Hei's expression changed slightly. "When it wakes up, I won't make things difficult for it." Initially, she couldn't stand White Dragon's arrogance. However, now that she was indebted to White Dragon, she naturally had to make some changes. Chapter 42:13. On this day, as Bailey Hongzhuang walked on the streets, Beichen's figure involuntarily appeared in her mind. Ever since she met Beichen, although they had been separated, all of her memories were related to him. In her previous life, she had always been used to being alone. It was hard to imagine what it was like to be alone with someone. However, now that Beichen was not by her side, she was not used to it. She even felt that she had almost forgotten how she lived alone. No matter what, she would always think of how Beichen would look when he was by her side, and what he would say to her. She missed Beichen's embrace, missed his warmth, missed his doting gaze, and missed his charming voice. As long as Beichen was by her side, no matter where she was, she would not feel lonely or afraid. Now that Beichen was not by her side, she missed him so much. especially in the dead of night. She hoped that Beichen would appear in front of her. It was a pity that no one knew when the next time they would meet would be. Just as Bailey Hongzhuang was thinking along the way, Baisher's voice suddenly rang out. "Master, it seems like someone is following us." Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang immediately woke up from her thoughts. Her clear eyes immediately became calm and serious, as she carefully observed the situation behind her. As expected, someone was following her. "We've just arrived in the upper realm. Logically speaking, no one should recognize us. What's going on?" Bailey Hongzhuang was secretly puzzled, but she did not show it on her face. This was really too strange. In her current situation, no one should be watching her. However, the other party had made her their target. There was definitely something fishy about this. The only possibility, I'm afraid it has something to do with Senior. Bailey Hongzhuang pondered. Apart from this, she could not think of any other possibility. Wen Tao, according to the information we've received, this woman should be Wang Yanhan's junior. During the time you were recuperating, Wang Yanhan only saw one woman. It was her. Yin Xiangming said. Di Wentao's gaze locked onto Bailey Hongzhuang. This woman is so young. I really don't believe that she's an inscription master. I also feel that Wang Yanhan might be deliberately lying to us. Di Wentao's expression was complicated. After thinking for a while, he shook his head. Wang Yanhan's family background is not rich. It's already not easy for him to maintain his own cultivation with spirit stones. He doesn't have the money to hire an inscription master. After thinking about it, this is the only possibility. Then what should we do? Let's go find this so-called little junior sister to investigate and see if what Wang Yanhan said is true or not. What if it's true? Wang Yanhan's Wentao's eyes. Di Wentao's Wang Yanhan's eyes. Di Wentao's eyes were cold and ruthless. He understood that in terms of cultivation talent, he was slightly inferior to Wang Yanhan. The reason why he could always compete with Wang Yanhan was that his family background was richer than Wang Yanhan's. If Wang Yanhan also had enough cultivation resources, then surpassing him would really be within his expectations. He could not let this happen. Chapter 42:14. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the 5 people standing in front of her, blocking her way. The man in the lead was wearing a pine green brocade robe embroidered with a few black and silver bamboos. His eyes were half narrowed, and his gaze was cold and full of hostility. His eyes quietly revealed a trace of killing intent. The 4 cultivators by his side all took half a step back from his side, as if they were following his lead. Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but slightly frown. Her dark and clear phoenix eyes were restrained and deep. It seemed that the other party didn't come with good intentions. When Bailey Hongzhuang was sizing up Di Wentao and the others, they were also sizing up Bailey Hongzhuang. The woman in front of them was less than 25 years old. Her appearance was above average. Although she was not bad, she was not outstanding in the upper realm where beauties were everywhere. However, the white and red demonic beast beside her was majestic. Every step it took was majestic. At this moment, the killing intent in the demonic beast's eyes was even more awe-inspiring. They were also people with good eyesight. Naturally, they could tell at a glance that this demonic beast was not ordinary. It seems that this woman is really not simple. Otherwise, she wouldn't have such a powerful contracted beast. Di Wentao secretly thought. He really didn't expect that Wang Yanhan, who didn't seem to have any family background, would have such a junior sister. After knowing that the other party came with bad intentions, Bailey Hongzhuang's attitude naturally became cold. Good dogs don't block the way. The cold voice revealed a bit of disgust and impatience. Bailey Hongzhuang coldly looked at the people in front of her, but her mind was thinking about how to get out of this situation. Di Wentao and the others, who were originally preparing to find trouble, were dumbfounded when they saw that Bailey Hongzhuang dared to take the initiative to find trouble. Their eyes were full of astonishment. Oh, Wentao, this little girl is really not simple. She is only one person, but she dares to take the initiative to challenge us. Yin Xiangming was so angry that he laughed. They had been running amok in Rong'an City for so long, but they had never encountered such a situation. Di Wentao also sneered. His cold and stern gaze locked onto Bailey Hongzhuang's pretty face. You are Wang Yanhan's junior sister, right? All of you came here in such a grandiose manner. Naturally, you've already confirmed my identity. Why do you have to ask again? Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows slightly, and her cold gaze revealed a trace of ridicule. You should be that Di Wentao who often finds trouble with my senior brother, but is ruthlessly stepped on by him. Although it was a question, Bailey Hongzhuang was very sure. The other party's appearance was exactly the same as what Wang Yanhan had described to her previously. The corners of Di Wentao's lips twitched slightly. His high and mighty attitude could no longer be maintained at this moment. The corners of his lips parted slightly, but his expression became even more ferocious. What a sharp tongue. I just don't know what it will feel like when I tear it apart. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes were as cold as ice. You can feel it for yourself. Haha. Di Wentao suddenly chuckled twice. Originally, I planned to give you a good warning today, and let you suffer a little, so that you know that you can't help just anyone. But now I've changed my mind. I want to kill you, and leave Wang Yanhan alone and without help. You think too much. Bailey Hongzhuang said indifferently. Chapter 42:15. Even without me, you're still not my senior brother's match. Bailey Hongzhuang's gaze was indifferent and distant. This fellow in front of her was a little funny. Before she had appeared, Di Wentao had no way of defeating Wang Yanhan. Now he was pushing all the blame onto her. It was as if Di Wentao would have been able to defeat Wang Yanhan without her appearance. Following Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Di Wentao could no longer control his emotions and flew into a rage. In the past, he only felt that Wang Yanhan was very hateful. Now, he realized that this woman in front of him also had the ability to anger people to death with her words. Do you know the consequences of offending me now? Di Wentao's words were full of threats. Cultivators from the lower realm, like you, are all equally lowly and laughable. We're lowly just because we're from the lower realm. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curled into a mocking smile. Her gaze was sharp and bright. At least, we've reached this place through our own hard work. In comparison, you've lived in the upper realm since you were young. Why are you still not my senior brother's match? If I were you, I would bury this in my heart and not say it out loud. Otherwise, wouldn't it be equivalent to asking for humiliation? However, I forgot that a brainless person like you would definitely not be able to see through this. She and Di Wentao did not belong to the same organization. Hence, she did not need to have the same misgivings as Wang Yanhan. Furthermore, the other party had come to find trouble with her. No matter if she spoke kind words or opposed him with equal harshness, the result would be the same. Since that was the case, she might as well teach this fellow a lesson. You. Di Wentao pointed his index finger at Bailey Hongzhuang. He felt that he was about to explode from anger. He had lived for so long, and had never met such a sharp-tongued fellow. She was simply too hateful. However, in the face of the other party's words, she was actually unable to refute a single word. Yin Xiangming and the rest were stunned. Although they were used to being arrogant, they were no match for the other party in terms of eloquence. What a sharp tongue. If I don't teach you a lesson today, I'm afraid you won't know the immensity of heaven and earth. In the next moment, Di Wentao waved his right hand, and a brown violent earth bear suddenly appeared in front of everyone. With just one command, the wild earth bear saw Bailey Hongzhuang as its target, and charged towards her without hesitation. Roar! The wild earth bear's roar came from its mouth, but its heavy body moved extremely quickly. It opened its bloody mouth, as if it wanted to tear Bailey Hongzhuang to shreds. When the onlookers saw this scene, they couldn't bear to see it. Needless to say, this girl was weak and came from the lower realm. She would probably die on the streets soon. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the ferocious wild earth bear in front of her, but her expression was extremely calm. It was as if the wild earth bear didn't exist at all. When Di Wentao and the rest saw Bailey Hongzhuang, they secretly mocked her in their hearts. Things had already come to this, and she was still pretending to be indifferent. She wouldn't even know how she died later on. However, just as the wild earth bear was about to attack Bailey Hongzhuang, the white and red demonic beast beside the latter suddenly moved. Chapter 42:16. Please enter the text. Dong. With a dull sound, a round head rolled on the ground and finally stopped at Di Wentao's feet. Looking at the familiar head at his feet, Di Wentao could not help but be dumbfounded. For a moment, he could not even react. Wild Earth Bear. How is this possible? Yin Xiangming and the others were also dumbfounded when they saw this scene. What was going on just now? They had been with Di Wentao for so long and knew the power of his contract beast very well. However, they did not expect that the other party's contract beast would bite off the Wild Earth Bear's head with just one move. Wasn't this too frightening? The cultivators present were also dumbfounded. This situation was completely different from what they had expected. They thought that the head rolling on the ground would be Bailey Hongzhuang's, but they did not expect it to be the Wild Earth Bear's head. What kind of beast is this lady's contract beast? Isn't this too frightening? No wonder she was so calm before. So she had already thought of a way to deal with it. I heard that Di Wentao has always been proud of his contract beast. I didn't expect the Wild Earth Bear to die. This is really a big blow to him. Everyone looked at each other. To cultivators, nurturing a contract beast was extremely taxing. They did not expect it to die. This meant that all his years of hard work had been wasted. As expected, Di Wentao stared blankly at the familiar head on the ground. He was dumbfounded and his face turned pale. On one hand, this pale face was because his contract beast had died, and he had suffered a certain backlash. On the other hand, he did not dare to believe that his contract beast had died just like that. This was too hard to accept. How could this be? Di Wentao's gaze shifted to Bai Shi. Although he had felt that Bai Shi was not simple, he did not expect it to be so powerful. One must know that his Wild Earth Bear was an extremely powerful existence among contract beasts. Thinking back to when he had this Wild Earth Bear, who knew how many cultivators were envious of his good luck. However, it had died just like that. His eyes suddenly turned red, and he felt that he could not breathe. When he looked at Bailey Hongzhuang again, his eyes were about to crack. You dare to kill my contract beast. A thick murderous aura suddenly exploded and enveloped Bailey Hongzhuang in this murderous aura. It was terrifying. However, in the face of Di Wentao's murderous aura, Bailey Hongzhuang was still as calm as ever, as if everything had nothing to do with her. You wanted to kill me. What's so strange about me killing your contract beast? As a cultivator, life and death are common. You should have been mentally prepared for the death of your contracted beast. Listening to Bailey Hongzhuang's light words, Di Wentao's body trembled with anger. She had clearly done such a thing, but Bailey Hongzhuang's appearance made him even angrier. Kill her. At this moment, Di Wentao could no longer control his emotions. This Bailey Hongzhuang deserved to die. Now he did not care about bullying the weak with numbers. He only knew that he must kill Bailey Hongzhuang. Otherwise he would not be able to vent his anger. Chapter 42:17. The earlier scene had shocked them. At the same time, they knew that the woman in front of them was not easy to deal with. If they were not careful, they might fail miserably at such an easy task. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Di Wentao and the other four who had surrounded her. She was secretly calculating in her mind. Earlier on, when Bai Shi had attacked, she had already sensed the strength of Di Wentao and the others. If she had not judged wrongly, Di Wentao should be at the 6th level of the Star Ray realm. The other cultivators were slightly weaker than him, but they were all at the 5th level of the Star Ray realm. After knowing this, Bailey Hongzhuang sighed inwardly. The upper realm was indeed much stronger than the lower realm. In the lower realm, cultivators at the Star Ray realm and above were already very few in number. She did not expect that there were so many cultivators at the Star Ray realm here. Cultivators at the Star Ray realm and above were also many in number here. It was truly terrifying. We had originally decided not to cause trouble. However, trouble just had to come knocking on our door. Xiaohei sighed inwardly. As they had just arrived here, they were alone and weak. Hence, they had previously discussed that they had to be careful and avoid causing trouble as much as possible. Who would have thought that after staying here for such a short period of time, something like this would happen? They could not even pass their days peacefully. We have no choice. We can only go all out now. Xiao Bai's eyes were filled with viciousness. Many times, trouble was unavoidable. Even if they could hide for a while, they could not hide forever. Hence, they might as well face it head-on. Master, the other party is very powerful. If we were to fight them head-on, I'm afraid that we are no match for them. Bai Shi reminded. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. I understand. Hence, we can only think of other ways. Right from the beginning, she had not planned to fight them head-on. With such a difference in strength, she would not be a match for them at all. Hence, they had to find other ways. Just as Wang Yanhan was cultivating in the room, there was suddenly a series of hurried knocks on the door. Wang Yanhan, are you there? Open the door. Something big has happened. Wang Yanhan hurriedly opened the door. The moment he opened the door, he saw Yi Haomiao standing outside with an anxious look. What happened? Wang Yanhan frowned and asked. Yi Haomiao grabbed Wang Yanhan's hand and said, It's urgent. Follow me first. I'll tell you as we walk. Although Wang Yanhan was full of doubts, he still walked forward based on his trust in Yi Haomiao. I just heard that Di Wentao was very unconvinced because he was seriously injured by you. So he went to find your little junior sister for revenge. Now that they've been out for a while, if we don't hurry over, something might happen to your little junior sister. Hearing Yi Haomiao's words, Wang Yanhan's face suddenly turned ugly. What? This Di Wentao is so despicable. He has always been like this. Now that he doesn't dare to take the initiative to cause trouble in front of you, he can only think of other ways to make you unhappy. Let's go. Wang Yanhan rushed in the direction of the inn at his fastest speed. He was already very anxious in his heart. If something happened to little junior sister, then he would never be able to forgive himself. Chapter 42:18. Just as Wang Yanhan and Yi Haomiao were rushing all the way to the inn where Bailey Hongzhuang was staying, they found that a group of people had gathered together on the way, as if they were watching the fun. Just as they were about to pass by, suddenly, a voice from inside attracted their attention. This is my little junior sister's voice. Wang Yanhan's gaze changed and he immediately stopped and walked towards the crowd. Yi Haomiao followed closely behind Wang Yanhan and said, I seem to have heard Di Wentao's voice. Little junior sister. Just as Bailey Hongzhuang was thinking about how to escape, she suddenly heard a voice from behind. She couldn't help but turn her head and saw Wang Yanhan and another man that she had never seen before walking over together. However, the same thing was that both of their faces were filled with deep concern. She immediately thought of Yi Haomiao that Wang Yanhan had mentioned to her before. Thinking about it, this person should be him. Senior brother. Wang Yanhan immediately stood beside Bailey Hongzhuang and glared at Di Wentao. Di Wentao, if you have any dissatisfaction, come at me directly. What kind of ability are you to make a move on my junior sister behind my back? Di Wentao and the others obviously didn't expect Wang Yanhan and Yi Haomiao to come back, and their expressions instantly changed. Originally, it couldn't be easier for them to kill Bailey Hongzhuang. They didn't expect that the other party had 2 more people, and the situation had changed a little. Wang Yanhan, I didn't know that she was your junior sister. Di Wentao's expression was cold, and the words that came out of his mouth were extremely shameless. Hearing that, Wang Yanhan chuckled. If you didn't know that she was my junior sister, then why did you find trouble with her? Since things have already come to this, why do you still have to hide it? I usually find trouble with whoever I want to find trouble with. What does it have to do with you? Look, clearly she killed my contracted beast. Now I want to kill her to avenge my contracted beast. What's wrong with that? Di Wentao's voice was extremely cold. He was simply about to explode from anger. The contract beast that he had painstakingly nurtured for so many years was gone just like that. Even now he was still unwilling to accept it. Following Di Wentao's words, Wang Yanhan and Yi Haomiao finally noticed the berserk earth bear's corpse. When they saw him earlier, the 2 of them had some doubts in their hearts. It was only after hearing Di Wentao's affirmation that they were certain. Immediately, they were shocked in their hearts. They knew how much Di Wentao treasured his contract beast, but they didn't expect it to die now. Wang Yanhan couldn't help but look at Bailey Hongzhuang. His slightly raised eyebrows were obviously asking silently, "Did you really kill him?" He made the first move. Bailey Hongzhuang said, "He wanted this wild earth bear to kill me, but he didn't expect it to be killed by my contract beast instead." After hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's affirmative answer, Wang Yanhan's heart skipped a beat. The way he looked at Bailey Hongzhuang changed again. Previously, he only knew that his junior sister's inscription technique was very powerful. But he didn't know that his junior sister's contract beast was also very powerful. To be able to kill the wild earth bear, this combat strength was very shocking. Gulp. Yi Haomiao also swallowed a mouthful of saliva, his expression filled with disbelief. Too terrifying. Not to mention Di Wentao. Even he couldn't help but feel heartache for the other party. This kind of loss would probably make people have the impulse to faint. Chapter 42:19. Wang Yanhan, how do you think this matter should be resolved? Di Wentao looked at Wang Yanhan coldly. At this moment he was already regretting to the extreme. If he had known that there would be such an outcome, he definitely would not have let the wild earth bear take action. With their abilities, it was absolutely not difficult to deal with Bailey Hongzhuang. He only wanted to make use of this opportunity to let Bailey Hongzhuang feel that he was in existence that the other party could not resist at all. He did not expect that such an unforeseen event would occur. Facing Di Wentao's questioning, Wang Yanhan's expression was still calm. Di Wentao, don't think that you can distort the truth just because you have a loss now. My little junior sister is only here alone. As long as you use your brain, you will know that she definitely would not take the initiative to provoke you. It must be you who found trouble. Hence my little junior sister's contracted beast took action to teach the wild earth bear a lesson. Di Wentao, don't you often do this kind of thing? Wang Yanhan's words were undoubtedly adding fuel to the fire, yet it was the truth. In Wang Yanhan's hands, Di Wentao indeed often did this kind of thankless thing. Now that the other party mentioned it, he was also incomparably depressed in his heart. Yi Haomiao laughed without giving face. Ever since he taught Di Wentao a lesson a few days ago, Wang Yanhan's personality changed a lot. The current him no longer tolerated Wang Yanhan. On the contrary, he would step on him whenever he could. One had to say that this kind of feeling was indeed quite satisfying. Wang Yanhan, don't think that you can be so arrogant, because you won against me the last time. If you can't give me an explanation for this matter today, then we will definitely not be done. Explanation? Bailey Hongzhuang sneered and raised her eyes. What explanation do you want? Unless you die today, otherwise, I will definitely not take this lying down. Di Wentao turned to look at Wang Yanhan and said, Wang Yanhan, I'll leave my words here. You have to think carefully. However, facing Di Wentao's threat, Wang Yanhan did not even consider and directly said, Impossible. When these words came out, Di Wentao's face turned black once again. A straightforward rejection undoubtedly made him lose face even more. Fine. Di Wentao clenched his teeth. You said it yourself. Today, we will fight to the death here, and see who will have the last laugh. Hearing that, Wang Yanhan couldn't help but look at Bailey Hongzhuang. He felt a little guilty too. He didn't want to let these things affect Bailey Hongzhuang, but he didn't expect that in the end, he would still bring her into a dispute. He felt very helpless. Looking at Wang Yanhan's expression, Bailey Hongzhuang already understood what he was thinking. She immediately said, Senior, don't worry. Let's fight. When it came to fighting, Bailey Hongzhuang had never been afraid. Previously, it was indeed very difficult for her to deal with the 5 people in front of her by herself. However, with the addition of Wang Yanhan and Yi Haomiao, the situation was different. At the very least, their chances of winning had increased significantly. Little junior sister, they have the advantage in numbers, and you've just arrived in the upper realm. I'm afraid this competition will be. It's all right. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly, indicating to Wang Yanhan that he could rest assured. Just as they were conversing, Di Wentao clearly had no interest in continuing to wait. He immediately said, "Attack." At his command, Yan Xiangming and the others attacked without hesitation. Chapter 42:20. Seeing the other party's actions, Wang Yanhan, Bailey Hongzhuang, and Yi Haomiao all looked at each other. Hardening their hearts, they immediately went forward. Looking at the current situation, they had no other choice but to fight. Wang Yanhan immediately went to meet Di Wentao. At this moment, he already hated the latter to the extreme. Although he hated Di Wentao before, at least this fellow had always been targeting him alone. That was fine. But now, he even brought all these conflicts to his little junior sister. This was what he couldn't accept the most. Di Wentao was completely taken out by him. If Yi Haomiao didn't happen to know this news, and immediately came to inform him, he really couldn't imagine what would have happened if they had arrived late. Once he thought of that possibility, he hated that he couldn't directly kill Di Wentao. Speaking of which, he was still too soft-hearted. He always felt that both sides belonged to the same faction. If he directly killed him, it wouldn't be too appropriate. However, looking at it now, all of this was meaningless. Towards a damned fellow like Di Wentao, he should directly take his life and eliminate all future troubles. Wang Yanhan, today, there should be an end between the two of us. Di Wentao's gaze was gloomy and his voice was even colder. Only he knew how much he hated Wang Yanhan. Originally, he already occupied the position of eldest senior brother. Everyone followed his lead, and was extremely respectful. However, it was this fellow from the lower realm, who didn't even enter his eyes at the beginning, that climbed all the way to where he was now. He even snatched away his position as leader. Now that he thought about it, he really regretted not directly killing this fellow back then. Otherwise, it wouldn't be so troublesome. Wang Yanhan stared coldly at Di Wentao. His voice was icy. Indeed, there should be an end between the two of us. Do you know how loathsome you are? Di Wentao's lips curled into a cold smile. A fellow like you should stay in the lower realm forever. Why are you vainly trying to come to the upper realm? That's my business. You don't need to worry. Ever since I came here, you've been targeting me everywhere. However, after targeting for so long, there's still no result. The reason why you're unhappy with me is that you're afraid of being outdone by me, Wang Yanhan said mockingly. Di Wentao's expression changed when he heard Wang Yanhan's mocking words, and he said in a stern voice, "I'll definitely kill you today, and make you disappear from the upper realms." If you had said this in the past, I would have believed you. But now, I'm afraid you no longer have the ability to do so. As Wang Yanhan's voice fell, the two swords collided. Ding ding ding. Sparks flew in all directions as vigorous yuan power violently gushed out. Both of them had a star ray rank 6 cultivation. At this moment, the momentum of their collision was extremely shocking. Bailey Hongzhuang and Yi Haomiao each went up against a cultivator. However, since there were 4 cultivators left, the other 2 also targeted them. The expressions of the 4 of them were very indifferent and proud. Obviously, they had already determined that Bailey Hongzhuang and her companion were no match for them. Chapter 42:21. In the past, Wang Yanhan and Di Wentao were equally matched. Now that Wang Yanhan had the help of inscriptions, it would be more difficult for Di Wentao to deal with him. Hearing that, the other cultivators nodded in agreement. Go ahead, leave this to us. After Yan Xiangming left, there were only 3 cultivators left in front of Bailey Hongzhuang and Yi Haomiao. Miss Bailey, Yi Haomiao looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with a serious expression. These 3 people are all in the Starlight Stage 5. I'm afraid it'll be difficult for you to deal with them. Why don't you stay closer to me? If there's any danger, I can take care of you. Bailey Hongzhuang turned her gaze. When she saw the worried expression on Yi Haomiao's face, a smile appeared in her eyes. Thank you, Mr. Yi. I'll be more careful. As she spoke, Bailey Hongzhuang said to Bai Shi, Xiaohei and Xiaobai, try to hold back one of the cultivators. I'll deal with the other cultivator as soon as possible. You just need to hold them back for a while. Is that okay? The other party was a Starlight Stage 5 cultivator. She had to be more careful, However, if she was only facing one person, she believed that she could end the battle quickly. No problem, the three beasts immediately replied. All right. In the next moment, Bailey Hongzhuang went up against another cultivator. At the same time, Yi Haomiao had already started fighting with the other two cultivators. From Yi Haomiao's point of view, Bailey Hongzhuang was Wanyan Han's junior sister. She had just arrived in the upper realm, and must have just broken through to the starlight stage. What's more, Bailey Hongzhuang had been seriously injured before. Although she had recovered now, she had not yet recovered to her previous state. Hence, he had to shoulder the greatest pressure. However, just as he attacked, he was surprised to find that Bailey Hongzhuang's contracted beast had come to help. He was instantly shocked. When he came to his senses, he could not help but look at Bailey Hongzhuang. He instantly had a good impression of her. Wanyan Han's junior sister was indeed a very good person. However, not long after, Yi Haomiao did not have the mood to think about this, because he was shocked to find that Bailey Hongzhuang's contracted beast had broken through to the starlight stage. A beast of the starlight stage? Yi Haomiao was dumbfounded. It was extremely difficult for a contracted beast to break through to the stage. Similarly, it was also very difficult for a contracted beast to break through to the stage. It was extremely difficult to nurture a contracted beast of the starlight stage. Was a beast. Not only a beast had to have a realm beast, a beast had a starlight stage, and Hongzhan Han. Di Wentao's violent earth bear was already very famous here, because that contracted beast had already reached the 8th level of the purple realm. Was a strong Hongzhuang with the stage starlight stage. If a contracted beast could break through to the stage starlight stage, its value would be greatly different. It was equivalent to having greater potential and a limitless future. Bailey Hongzhuang had just broken through to the stage starlight stage not long ago. Her contracted beast had also reached the stage starlight stage. This was truly shocking. Not only Yi Haomiao, but his two opponents were also dumbfounded. No wonder this contracted beast could kill the berserk earth bear. It's actually a contracted beast of the stage starlight stage. Damn! I'm afraid only an inscription master has the ability to nurture such a contracted beast. Chapter 42-22. Even so, Di Wentao could only raise the violent earth bear's cultivation to the 8th level of the purple realm. It would be extremely difficult to advance further. Although Di Wentao had always hoped that his violent earth bear could break through to the starlight realm, they were very clear that this was absolutely not an easy matter. However, Bailey Hongzhuang was able to nurture a starlight realm contracted beast. Although the difference between the two seemed to be only 2 levels, in reality, this gap was really not an ordinary kind of big. After a short moment of shock, the battle between the two sides started again. Since today had already come to this point, it was obvious that they would not rest until one of them was dead. Little beauty, if you want to blame someone, you can only blame yourself for being Wanyan Han's junior sister. You just had to help him draw inscriptions, so you can only die here today. Don't blame me. If you want to blame someone, blame your senior brother. He dragged you down. Qianming sneered. Hearing the other party's ridicule, Bailey Hongzhuang could not help but sneer, and said, "There's something that I think you might be mistaken about. The one dying here today is not me, but you. You should remember clearly that this is because of Di Wentao that you ended up like this." Qianming's expression changed. As expected, you have a sharp tongue. I want to see if you can still be so proud when you're about to die. Go ahead and try. Bailey Hongzhuang said coldly. Boom. Both sides' essence power surged out at the first moment. When Qianming discovered that Bailey Hongzhuang was a Starlight Realm level 2, a trace of shock flashed across his eyes. Bailey Hongzhuang was really too young. When he was so young, he did not seem to have reached the other party's cultivation. For a moment, he suddenly felt that the lower realm's cultivators were somewhat terrifying. No matter if it was Bailey Hongzhuang in front of him, or Wanyan Han who was currently fighting, their talent and potential were both very terrifying. I admit that your talent is very shocking, but unfortunately, you're going to die in my hands today. Just after Qianming said this, Bailey Hongzhuang snorted coldly, and the blood qi field was instantly displayed. A faint smell of blood pervaded the air, and that white figure was quietly dyed with a trace of blood color. Following that, the blood color gradually covered, and her aura also continuously rose. 3rd rank astral radiance. 4th level astral radiance. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang easily raise her aura to star radiance rank 4. Not only Qianming, but all the cultivators present were dumbfounded. For a moment, he couldn't wrap his head around it. He couldn't figure out what method Bailey Hongzhuang had used to directly increase her cultivation. Wow, I really didn't expect this woman to have such ability. It's really amazing. How did his cultivation increase so much all of a sudden? Previously there was still a huge gap, but now the gap has narrowed by a lot. I didn't think that the cultivators of the lower realms would have so many tricks up their sleeves. Now that I've seen it today, it's truly amazing. For a time, the way everyone looked at Bailey Hongzhuang could not help but change. They were extremely shocked in their hearts. Yi Haomiao and Wang Yanhan also noticed the change in Bailey Hongzhuang. They were shocked. They didn't expect her to have such ability. Previously, they had underestimated Bailey Hongzhuang. However, Bailey Hongzhuang wasn't done with her blood aura field. Her killing aura field suddenly exploded. Chapter 42-23. This kind of murderous intent seemed to come from a mountain of corpses and a sea of blood. The thick murderous intent almost condensed into a substance. Everyone only felt a gust of cold air enter their bodies, following which, the fear in their hearts magnified infinitely. When Qianming looked at Bailey Hongzhuang again, he only felt that the latter's figure suddenly became taller and bigger. In his heart, she actually became an undefeatable existence. Terrifying. Too terrifying. Qianming's pupil shrank. A thought of retreating actually arose in his heart. He didn't dare to fight against the other party at all. The influence of this murderous intent was really too great. Under Bailey Hongzhuang's control, it directly enveloped Di Wentao and the other 4 people. Di Wentao originally wasn't Wang Yanhan's match. However, with Yan Xiangming's help, he was able to maintain his position and not be defeated. Suddenly, he felt a terrifying murderous intent directly enveloping his entire person. Immediately after, his body instantly stiffened. That eerie chill made his back shiver, and his movements became sluggish. After Wang Yanhan discovered the change in Di Wentao, he immediately released a ruthless move. In a battle between cultivators of similar strength, one had to grab hold of the other party's mistake. Once it was done, then the other party wouldn't have the power to counterattack. Bam! Wang Yanhan's move landed solidly on Di Wentao's body. Immediately after, Di Wentao's figure fell heavily onto the ground. Di Wentao spat out a mouthful of blood. However, he didn't look at Wang Yanhan immediately. Instead, he looked at Bailey Hongzhuang's position. This was because he clearly felt that the aura just now came from Bailey Hongzhuang. Even at this time, that surging murderous intent was still so obvious. He also finally understood why Bailey Hongzhuang appeared so indifferent when he released his murderous intent previously. It turned out that he was simply displaying his slight skill in front of an expert. Compared to Bailey Hongzhuang's murderous intent, what he released previously was nothing. However, he completely couldn't understand. Bailey Hongzhuang was so young. How could she possess such a terrifying murderous intent? One had to have experienced something like this to be able to release such killing intent. Wang Yanhan and Yi Haomiao also looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in shock. They could feel that under the suppression of Bailey Hongzhuang's killing intent, the battle strength of Di Wentao and the others had been greatly weakened. Clearly they had been affected. Such a skill was truly terrifying. Gulp. Yi Haomiao gulped again. He felt that he shouldn't underestimate Wang Yanhan's little junior sister. It was only when he noticed Qianming, who was lying at Bailey Hongzhuang's feet, that he realized how powerful Bailey Hongzhuang was. To be able to fight someone 3 levels higher than him. This was the first person he had ever met. Yan Xiangming and the others were all dumbfounded. This scene was beyond all of their expectations. For a moment, they even found it hard to believe. No wonder Bailey Hongzhuang had acted so calmly and fearlessly in the face of so many of them. It turned out that she was also a powerful character. They had been blind previously. Bailey Hongzhuang stepped on Qianming to make him behave. Then, she turned to look at Wang Yanhan and said, "Senior brother, how should we deal with this?" Although she really wanted to kill this fellow directly, this fellow and Wang Yanhan belonged to the same faction after all. She didn't want to put Wang Yanhan in a difficult position because of her momentary pleasure. Therefore, the final decision was left to Wang Yanhan. Chapter 42-24. Qianming was so depressed that he almost cried. This was a battle that he thought he would definitely win. He didn't know how it turned into such an ending. Now he was directly stepped on by Bailey Hongzhuang. He had already lost face to the extreme. However, the other party's sword was on his neck. He didn't doubt that as long as he moved slightly, the other party's sword would directly cut his throat. For a moment, he could only pin his hopes on Wang Yanhan. Bailey Hongzhuang was Wang Yanhan's junior sister. As long as Wang Yanhan didn't want to kill him, he believed that Bailey Hongzhuang would definitely agree. Wang Yanhan looked at Qianming and Di Wentao, who fell on the ground, and then looked at the other three cultivators who had already stopped moving. Thoughts flew in his mind. "Wang Yanhan, we are from the same sect. You can't kill me." Qianming saw that Wang Yanhan didn't speak for a long time and couldn't help but become anxious. If it was in the past, he didn't have to worry at all because Wang Yanhan wouldn't kill them. However, Wang Yanhan's personality had obviously changed a lot recently. He didn't dare to be so confident. He won't dare to do it. Di Wentao's expression was certain. Even if Wang Yanhan pointed a weapon at him, his expression was still very indifferent. It was as if he wasn't worried at all. Bailey Hongzhuang didn't speak. She just looked at Wang Yanhan indifferently. However, she felt somewhat helpless. Senior brother's personality was really too indecisive. If not, Di Wentao and the others wouldn't dare to find trouble with him time and time again. If it was her, she would have given the other party a fierce blow from the beginning. The other party would naturally stop. This was because he had always been restrained. That was why the other party had become like this. Because they didn't have to worry about the consequences. They had no scruples. However, she also understood that the reason why Wang Yanhan became like this was probably because he had been alone and without help after coming to the upper level. As time passed, he lost his previous decisiveness and ruthlessness. A person's personality would change according to the environment. Wang Yanhan was able to obtain such a position in Penglai Palace in the past. She didn't need to think to know that he was definitely not a person with such a personality. This matter was also a kind of opportunity for him. It would depend on what choice he made. If he still chose to let them go like this, she would not object either. She would just be a little disappointed. Wang Yanhan was originally hesitating, but after hearing Di Wentao's arrogant words, a kind of anger rose in his heart for no reason. The other party seemed to have seen through him, and was certain that he had no guts. This feeling made him extremely unhappy. He had never been such a person. If it was in the past, he would have killed the other party without hesitation. However, ever since he came here, he was affected by the surrounding environment and gradually lost his courage. At this moment, he suddenly noticed a flash of disappointment in Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes. His heart was suddenly shocked, and he seemed to understand at this moment. This matter did not only concern him, but also Bailey Hongzhuang. According to Bailey Hongzhuang's character, she would definitely not let the other party off. She only left the matter to him for his sake. If he let them go just like that, wouldn't he disappoint little junior sister? He couldn't do that. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.